Well, everybody, what an interesting evening we have happening here in Northeast Ohio and Cleveland. Getting some updates on my phone right now. We just got a tweet in from M. Whaley, who is down in Carrollton. They have about 4 inches of snow on the ground, so things are moving along beautifully there. I'm actually going to take a second here as more folks are logging in. I'm just going to turn on a monitor that has somehow been turned off. Of course, I have to figure out how to actually turn that monitor on. There it is. I got it. Power, I'll tell you what. All right, so we do still have this winter weather advisory in play. It started at 7 o'clock. We're going to continue with the winter storm warning to the east as well. Let me put my phone down here, and we're going to take a look at a few of the details that are evolving this evening. Basically, the winter storm warning, we have dangerous impacts, winter weather advisory, more inconvenience type impacts. I'm going to tell you, everybody's having a really big impact from this storm as of right now here in Northeast Ohio. A live look around town shows that to you. Here is downtown Cleveland. We do have snow-covered highways, especially the overpasses, the bridges. Westlake, I-90 at Columbia. Boy, you can see the snow streaking through. See that snow streak right there? And then over toward the Madison area, very heavy snow that's falling. You can see it there in the lights. Down to Dover, New Philadelphia area with a few inches of snow on the ground. We are definitely seeing nasty conditions around the Akron area right now. And then farther to the west in Medina, occasionally we've seen the visibilities lifting just a little bit. You can see the difference here. We've also had some mixing that's taking place. Some sleet has been mixing in, and I think that is one of the factors that we have kind of back and forth as we head through the night tonight. So winter weather advisory, the magic number is 4+ inches in those areas with winter storm warnings of 6+ inches elsewhere, mainly the 77 corridor and eastward. All of us, though, have been getting this snow, and we're really starting to see how all of the pieces of this are beginning to come together. Let me put this into motion for you real quick, and we'll point this out. Everything is moving south to north still at this point, but the middle section, the middle part of this entire complex is rotating back to us. It's coming at us from the east. So we kind of have everything coming together in one place, and that happens to be right here over Northeast Ohio. So we still have some light snow that is ongoing out here toward the Sandusky and Huron areas, down into Norwalk, Milan, Richland, the Mansfield area, Shelby, Ontario. You've been getting some light snow as well. We have a couple inches of snow on the ground already in the Ashland area. This is going to be one of those that we're right on the bubble with. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second on a traffic cam, but you can kind of see how we start to get some of these little showers that split off and go farther to the northwest, whereas you have this giant dark blue blob sitting over the central part of the area. Through the evening, we've been watching sleet. This is really been something that kind of crept into the discussion yesterday, became like, oh, well, maybe it's possible. Now we know it is possible that the sleet could be mixing in at times. I mentioned that we have that part of the mid-level of the atmosphere. We have an easterly wind that's actually bringing in just above freezing temperatures, and that's helping to kick this over into some sleet. Remember, sleet is snowflakes that melt into water drops and then they refreeze, so you get little baby ice cubes. That is mixing with the snow in places, and let me put this into motion and you can kind of see how this has been moving and morphing, and there's times when there's more sleet or less sleet, but we've had this mixing that's taking place. It's not stationary, although it has been more prevalent here throughout Medina, Summit, and Wayne counties. That basically, to me, means one thing. That's going to start to play with the snow totals, because other areas have been getting nothing but snow out of this, whereas these areas have had a little bit of that sleet mixing in, and all that does is it mixes up your snowflakes. It makes for jacked up snowflakes, if you will, and they don't stack up as nicely. So these heavy, big, wet snowflakes that we've been getting, if they're actually in the form of these ice cubes, they just don't add up to as much. So we may see just a little bit less in the way of the accumulations, but the cool part is we still have accumulations, and the entire air column, everything above us, is going to be cooling over the next few hours. So even if we are getting that warm air in here, it is eventually going to be cooling below the freezing point, and we will get rid of that sleet. And that's when I think we're really going to have the snow going gangbusters in the area. So we are keeping a close eye on that. The beautiful thing here, one of the beautiful things, is this cutoff line. This was advertised long ago. Western areas would not get nearly as much as east. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get any. You still get a little bit, but not nearly as much as farther east. And then all of these areas out here, Ashtabula, Trumbull, Portage, Geauga counties, down into Mahoning County, will have snow heavy snow that persists into the morning. So that's why we have even higher snow totals out to the east than to the west. Obviously, this is complicating things on the roads. I showed you those 6 cameras. I'll show you a few more coming up. But very slow going throughout Northeast Ohio's roadways. There is a lot of snow already. The snow plows, as they go by, they're doing a great job. But the problem is the snow just keeps coming, and it's going to come down faster. It's going to come down harder. And as it does so, the plows won't be keeping up. They're out. Believe me, they're out. But unless you are out shoveling your driveway constantly for the next 12 hours, you're not going to be able to keep up with it either. So don't expect them to. We do have a couple little bumps and bruises here and there, a lot of spin outs being reported, but for the most part, no major accidents as of yet. This is I-71 in Brunswick. This is a beaut, friends, right at 303. This is always a tricky spot anyway, because as soon as you get north of 303, there's about a 4-mile stretch between Brunswick and Strongsville where there are no lights on the road. And I've been there, done that. It is brutal. Some of the worst driving conditions in Northeast Ohio in that stretch. And you can see that folks are definitely taking it slow there. Have a couple of car dealerships over here that they're getting a lot of snow stacking up there. Down into Canton area, this is 77 at 62. You can see where 62 splits off here to the east. You can see the snowflakes on the camera. That's amazing. So this is some pretty heavy snow that is falling now. You can see we still have some tire tracks as folks are making their way around the area, but we don't have plowed lanes, and we won't have plowed lanes until probably midday tomorrow for a lot of places, because the snow is just going to keep coming down. And you know how it is when you get the snow tracks. If you get in the track, usually you're pretty good, but if you have to move over, get off of the highway, you got big issues. So that's going to be a big problem. And I show you the traffic cams. I know a lot of people aren't out, and you're not really going to be going out because tomorrow is, you know, the holiday, but I think it's one way that we all understand the severity of the storm, and it is actually a severe storm that we are dealing with. And so it's a tangible bit of evidence for you that things are just as nasty as presented. This is Ashland, 71 at 250. This is a little bit of a surprise area because they have definitely had some snow coming down. There's one of the cars, and you can see those tracks that I was just talking about, and you get kind of some of the buildup there on the berms on either side. So very slushy, very slow going. The Akron area, holy heck, what happened to that camera? It just moved and there it is. Wow, that was crazy. Anyway, this is the central interchange in Akron, just east of downtown. And you can see we definitely have some snow that is on the ground, also on the highways. So really slow going. It's just part and parcel with what everybody else has been getting. All right, big picture of this storm. We are still getting a nice big pump of moisture off of the East Coast. Remember that east wind that I talked about in the middle part of the storm? It's connecting all the way back into Ohio. And we have this little area right here. This is what we've been waiting on. This is known as the trough. This is the trough of warm air aloft. It's the supercharger of snow, if you will. And that zone is just where it's going to go gangbusters on helping to lift. Anytime you lift in the atmosphere, that's instability, that's power. And as we get that moving into the area, that should help to get a zone of heavy snow firing up. We can really see it here on the water vapor imagery on the satellite. You can see how all of these clouds are building. It looks like literally they're being lifted. They are. There's all kinds of different mechanics in the atmosphere happening to help that out. You can also kind of see that mid-layer moisture plume that is moving back our way too. So it's very interesting to see how all of this is connecting up. Meanwhile, the driver of this whole thing is sitting down here in North Carolina at this point, and as it continues to move north, that will help to drag the storm out tomorrow. But it's going to take its sweet time in doing so. We got to get a lot of distance between North Carolina and the New England area before this storm finally begins to wind down and move out. So all of that being said, we still have to sit under this snow tonight, and as it continues to pivot and rotate through before it rotates out, this snow is going to continue to come down. Peyton Domschke is here with me, and she's been dealing with me monkeying with all of the snow totals, and I'm literally like 8 inches, no 9 inches, no 8, no 13, no 10. It is terrifying and stressful and crazy. I just told her a little bit ago, not to be TMI, but when I am stressed, I eat, and I like to eat crunchy things. I have eaten a bag of oyster crackers. That's not the healthiest thing. I know I could do worse, but just to kind of put it into perspective for you, it is an oyster cracker bag kind of a storm. All right, so as mentioned, this is going to continue tonight. We'll continue to have all of this snow falling. Periods of heavy snow will continue, especially areas east. Farther west, I think the back edge of that snow will hang out here for probably about the next few hours and then slowly start to press east as we get into the start of the day tomorrow. This is 7 a.m. Now, this is the European model. I'm showing you a very generalized, broad brush picture of how this is going to go. The next slide I'll show you is a more detailed version of this. But one thing to note here is this north wind that develops tomorrow, northwest wind, that adds a little extra punch from the lake. Yeah, because that's what we have here. So we're going to add in that little bit of extra lake enhancement, lake effect snow. That will then carry some of these northeast counties into that higher number as far as the accumulations go. And we'll hold on to that lake effect snow even as we get into the afternoon. Note that the wind speeds 15 to 20 miles per hour, friends. We are talking about blowing and drifting snow issues even when it's not snowing. So we just have kind of 1, 2, 3. It's a train of problems that are coming our way as this storm system begins to depart. And once it finally does get out of here, we will be dealing with some light lake effect snow that lingers into Monday night. All right, now, I mentioned that I showed you the broad brush European model of what's going on. This is one that's called the HRR, the HRRR, the high res rapid refresh model. And this one is very detailed. It's a 3-kilometer version. The other one was a 9-kilometer version. Basically, that's just the size of the paintbrush it paints with. So this is a more detailed paintbrush. The thing to note is that it is showing some of this sleet, but it's not showing it in the right place. So immediately you kind of go, okay, we like the idea that it has the sleet in it. It's kind of in the wrong place. But as I go forward in time, you can get the general picture here that where we have that sleet changeover, we also have very heavy snow that is coming down. And I've had some people that have been on social with me tonight, at Betsy Kling, Instagram, same for Twitter. I'm on Facebook too. And they've been saying, hey, now we have sleet. Oh wait, now we have snow. Now just a little bit ago, I swear it was rain that we had, and that's this whole system just kind of working it out. And a lot of those reports have been coming from in here in Medina, Summit, and Wayne counties. Meanwhile, down in the Carrollton area, as I told you, we just got a picture on my Twitter feed that I just tweeted out, 4 inches of snow on the ground already. So we know that there's the heavy snow out there. And I think once that the cooling takes place and gets rid of this sleet, we're really going to see those snow rates improving. And you can see even into the early morning, that snow continues. This is a look at 4 a.m., heavy snow east, still light lingering snow out to the west, and then we'll start to pull in that little bit of lake enhancement by 7, 8, 9 a.m. That will eventually shift to the east out into the primary snowbelt areas before it starts to taper off, and then we just have to deal with that blowing and drifting snow. The same idea in both models, just a little bit different details. And so when you put the meteorology with the modeling, you can really nail down how the big picture is going to go. And then once we get to the details, that's where this comes in. And it's hard. It's really hard because I've had people telling me how bad I suck since Friday. So there's that. That's a great way to go into a storm, right? But the thing is that we knew the snow was coming, so that's a win. And now we're kind of just dealing with these little issues. Whether you have 6 inches of snow on the ground or 8 inches of snow on the ground, you still have a lot of snow. So I kind of divided the colors into 4 different zones here. 2+ inches in the light blue, so you can see these areas here. 6+ inches in the dark purple. So that's a big jump, but we've got to be able to get these zones kind of nailed down. And then once you get into this purple, this is more of your 8+, 9+ inches of snow, and then 12+ in this light pink color. So there's a couple of different reasons why I'm not going with the traditional, 7.5 inches of snow for this point, because this is a changing situation. And every time those models come in, they update. And sometimes they've been giving us some very wild ranges as far as those updated numbers. So if I put the number on here, I think this kind of gives you an idea of a little bit of cushioning, right? So 2 to 4 inches in the Sandusky area. We may have some areas farther west that only get an inch or a dusting. But on the east side of Sandusky, you're probably going to end up getting 3 or 4 inches of snow. 5 to 7 for Elyria. We'll have a lot of areas in Elyria that have 5. We could have some, especially east, to get 5, maybe 8 inches of snow. I know, getting crazy. Farther south into Mansfield, same for Ashland, about that 3 to 6. The farther east you go, this is where we're dealing with more of that sleet changing to heavy snow and the longer snow period. So the snow is going to last longer out to the east. And that's why I think we are able to attain some of these high numbers. If anything, my numbers are on the low side of possibilities. I know that's kind of scary. I hate putting huge numbers out there because if it doesn't happen, it's kind of a bummer. But when you put a foot of snow on a place, it's kind of a big deal. There's a lot that goes into that, even if it's a holiday day tomorrow. But, when it's a very heavy foot of snow, meaning the weight of the snow is very heavy, that can be downright dangerous. And I think tomorrow that's going to be a big concern, especially for your neighbors and everybody like that. Clearing all this snow off of driveways and sidewalks, it's going to be heavy. We also have that little bit of a power line issue that hasn't really shown up too much yet. But as you add all of these inches of snow together on pine trees and whatnot, and then you throw wind into it too, that can become more and more of a factor. So this is the latest adjustment on these storm totals. We'll continue to tinker and watch, but I told Peyton this is it. I'm done. This is the last one. And I have been back and forth on a couple of these. So you may, at 11 o'clock, I don't know, maybe we'll throw a 12 in on Canton, but we'll take it one step at a time, most certainly. The thing to remember is, even though it is only 10 o'clock, we still have like 10 to 12 hours of this thing to go. And it's not going to stop snowing. It will just keep snowing. So these storm impacts are going to be significant for us. If you only get 6 inches of snow, if you get a foot of snow, all of us are having to deal with this. And since it is such a wide area that is getting this, it's really going to start to slow things down. Through the day tomorrow, we'll start to see things improving gradually. Road crews will be able to catch up once the snow finally cuts off. But it's a bit of a doozy for us. So tough travel, that's the number one thing. We have severe conditions on the roads. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. We do have a level 1 snow emergency in Erie County, Huron County. I heard that we had a level 1 snow emergency. We'll confirm that for a little bit later. But we are also, keeping an eye out for the possibility of some power outages. I don't know that it's going to be very widespread. But you know how things go with breakers and those big substations and whatnot. If one of those goes offline, we're going to have issues. High wind. All right, so tomorrow on the backside of the storm system, the winds will be picking up. We could have gusts to 20 by morning, gusts 30 plus in the afternoon. That's going to create blowing and drifting snow issues. It's also going to be driving down the wind chills. So our wind chills tomorrow are probably going to be in the teens and low 20s. But with all this fresh snow on the ground, that's not terribly bad. And it's going to be epic sledding and snowball making and snowman and snowwoman making. So it's going to be really awesome. So hopefully the kids are going to get out there. One thing about snow forts, you know how when the plows come by and you get those big snow forts? Just keep in mind, please, families and parents, that those are actually kind of dangerous. The weight of that snow, if it collapses on the dugout area, your kids won't make it out. We had that issue when I was a kid in the neighborhood. We got him out, but it was panic for a while there as that snow crushed down. So please be careful with those snow forts. And as far as the cold goes, I mean, we've had worse. We've been in the single digits in the low teens for a little while here. So it certainly has been a little bit of a doozy for us. But I think for the most part, the headline out of all of this is that this is not the worst storm we've ever had. We'll probably hit some top 10s for one-day snowfall for, some areas, but since it's split overnight, it gets a little bit tricky to nail that down, unfortunately. But a 24-hour snowfall total, I think, will be pretty good. I'm going to just reset this real quick because I can, just to go back to the top and reiterate that we just have all of these issues going on. So if you did join us before, again, the winter storm warning, these are the areas where we're expecting the most significant snowfall. It will be very problematic, though, all over Northeast Ohio. Even the Erie and Huron counties, you see that they're not in an advisory. This is where the technicalities muddy up the messaging, but they still have a level 1 snow emergency in Erie County. So, it's just not great out there. And as we take a look at these cameras again, man, this is just so beautiful. There's nothing better than when you forecast a big snowstorm and everybody tells you how horrible and dumb you are, and then this happens. So it's happening, right? What's that movie that the kid goes, "It's happening, it's happening." It's Yeah, exactly. We get a little giddy about it. So the big thing, a lot of folks are home. They're not going out. So it's one of those that we actually get to take a little bit of a deep breath. Just because we can, let's take a look at this radar one more time, how beautiful it is. We have that heavy snow that's coming down, but as mentioned, we're still getting some of that sleet, and it looks like the sleet is beginning to expand again. Again, this is a product called the correlation coefficient. It's basically how everything relates to each other. So how all of these little precipitation bits relate to each other in the radar beam. And where you see all this solid red, that's all snow, okay? But when you get these oranges, that means things aren't really lining up all that well together. There's something different there. And as far as this something different in this case, it is sleet. So that will continue to come down. It may continue to be a problem, but the overall air column above us is cooling. So that should alleviate that warm air just sitting above the surface and finally cool things off and get us back to all snow. But even if the sleet is coming in, it's not all sleet necessarily. You can have a mix of sleet and snow, and that's what we've had reported in a lot of areas throughout the evening. So here we go, everybody. You knew it was coming, but the good news is it's going to be out of here by tomorrow afternoon. We will have dramatically improved conditions by Tuesday. Peyton has been keeping a close eye on some Arctic air that is headed our way for later this week. Thursday looks like we take another bit of a plunge as far as the temperatures go. And we've been talking a lot about how snowpack impacts forecast temperatures because it's going to help to keep things cool. So things are definitely going to be a little chill around here over the next couple of days, but at least we get to enjoy this snow, and hopefully we'll get to see some sunshine to enjoy it with too. We're going to re-rack things. We will see you again tonight after the football game. I have no idea what's going on with the football game. The sports people have been yelling their heads off in the back of the room. But we'll catch up with all that, and we'll catch up with you after that football game with the latest on Channel 3 News. What matters? Well, let's see, that's the what's next, right? 11 o'clock is what's next. Channel 3 News, what's next newscast after the game. We'll see ya.